Howdy y'all, I am Ice Gold, and today I wanted to talk about something that's been an issue for quite some time now, and people have asked me to speak about this before. I, of course, am talking about the issue that has been around since 2019, spellements. Yeah, so pretty much what's the thing with spellements is that they help you upgrade your spells, as you probably have seen by now, but they mostly have just, it's been an issue because you need so many to upgrade your spells, and in a lot of cases the tier 1 version of certain lore spells, like Berry Surprise for example, you can't even use in PvP or advanced content. You need to slave away at the Spirit of Ignorance to get this card to tier 2B in order to actually use this in advanced content. So yeah, spellements have really been a big issue. They have raised the barrier to entry in PvP just immensely, and they are why the PvP queue is so much smaller compared to what it used to be. And you have things like Catch of the Day, for example, where it's like removing blades is off identity for storms. So the base version, rather than being the hit and double blade, is it's just this. It's and it's banned for PvP. So the fact of the matter is, you need, let me go back to Berry Surprise real quick. You need 305 spellements to take this card from tier 4 to tier 5. So, just so we're clear, let me go to a card that I actually do have like a ton of spellements of, like Catch of the Day for example. Let's just do this. So, if I reset Catch of the Day, I have 685 spellements. So, unlocking it, by the way, costs another 35. So, in total, you need, what is that, 720 spellements, I think it is, if that math checks out. So, 720 spellements to take Catch the Day from not being unlocked to unlocked, right? First 35 goes here. And then another 685 after that in order to get it to tier 5, so that way it does the most damage. Now, as you can tell, that this is a very long and just very slow grind. So I farmed the key boss Takanobu the Masterless, who drops this card's spellements, and I farmed him a ton back in the day, and I was able to get Catch of the Day all the way to tier 5 just earlier this year, because you need so many gold skeleton keys in order to get Catch all the way up, and that to me is a problem. I think that this is one of the biggest issues with the barrier to entry. This is one of the things that is raising it so much higher than it probably would be. It's like raid gear. The barrier to entry with raid gear just came down a little because the new Lemuria raid takes fewer people, and it's also just easier to complete. It's not as, I guess, intensive as the Azteca raid, and the templates are the same. So it came down a little with that, but ultimately, these spellements and getting them to tier 5, sometimes people will, crit block, they'll tank on like 100 HP, and if you have tier 2 Catch of the Day versus tier 5, you might barely kill with tier 5 and have the person barely tank with tier 2. And that's why everybody wants to get these maxed out. And this is one of the few lore spells that I do have maxed out. My Queen Calypso is only tier 3. My Berry, as y'all saw, is tier 4. What else is there? I've got my Bunyip's Rage isn't even maxed, although it probably could be soon, but anyway. Sirens, I only have enough spellements for tier 2. This isn't exactly a useful card in advanced content, but I don't plan to get these spellements up super high. Now, I said that this has been around since 2019, and I say that because that was when, in the fall update in 2019, brought with it the Catacombs, and so that was when the first spellements were released. That was when we got Daybreaker and Nightbringer, and these only dropped from Catacombs bosses like King Detritus, that sort of thing. So, you know, these cards, they didn't have that much of a place in the PvP meta back then. They weren't really too useful, but you could use them to, I guess, do some sort of surprise play. And of course now they're banned in PvP, which is just so great. But yeah, the main thing with these was you would unlock it for, you know, 35 spellements, right? And you would be able to get 1 copy of this. Then for another 75 you'd be able to get 2. Then for 115 spellements you'd be able to get 3. And then for another 190 spellements after that, you would get the same amount of copies, but it would only add 3 extra pips to the cast, or to the cost rather. And then upgrading it another 305 spellements to upgrade it to tier 5 would make them reshuffleable. So they were kind of interesting. They, like I said, you know, they weren't too impactful on the meta, but it was when we started seeing some other cards, and more specifically, the way you got these spellements for these other cards. Now, real old heads for this channel will know that troll spellements back in the day were atrocious to fight against. They only dropped from the Islanders Horde pack at very low rates, but what would happen is, and this is 2020 by the way, like late summer, early fall 2020 was when troll spellement really came up. But what would happen is, if you had the troll spellement, it would summon a minion, and it would that minion would just on a loop, it would trap into Cyclops. And back in the day, you know, there weren't really trap counters like that, but shields did have a lot of I guess prevalence in the meta. They still do, but just not to the degree that they did back then. They weren't as strong. But the thing with it is, that troll minion would trap twice, and then it would hit and clear a shield, while leaving another trap, and then it would trap another 2 times. So basically, if you ever went against a myth with a troll spellement, you were effectively... It was such an uphill climb, because they would always have an extra buff on you. And, I mean, a bunch of people always saw that as a problem, and eventually the troll spellement was changed, but something that I wasn't around for when I was still on my long break from 2020 to 23, there was a spell called Grenadier, and it was a life spell. And basically what it would do is you could pacify yourself, and that would mean you would not be targetable by any single attacking hits. It wouldn't apply to AoEs, or if you were the only person out on the board, which in 1v1 you were most of the time. But then there was a spell called Grenadier. Sit, pacify themselves, make themselves not targetable, and then the troll minion would be the only thing that you could target for 3 rounds. So that was a whole thing. And eventually this top path got banned from PvP. I actually don't know when that happened, but minions in general also just got fully banned for PvP, so that also helped a ton with this. But yeah, that's just that is 2 different examples of spellements having such a huge impact on the PvP meta. And I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, let's just be real. So yeah, it's like, for a while they were only obtainable from things like packs. Like I mentioned, the Islanders Horde pack dropped the troll spellement, and it was not very quick in getting them. Like it would take a while, is more or less what I'm getting at. Eventually 2022 came around, and that is when the spellements started really ramping up. And when that happened, I think it was that summer update in 2022 when the Arc 1 spellements got added. And basically what these do, like if we look at, I don't know, Stormshark for example, basically what would happen is you would go out, you would farm bosses, and you would upgrade your Stormshark from there. And, you know, you could choose which path you wanted it to take. You could choose path A for some more base damage and higher accuracy eventually, or you could take the bottom path for, you know, gambiting a heal into a massive hit. I always like this because, you know, this is actually viable early game. If you're, you know, getting like sprite TCs, for example, you could do that and then gambit the sprite. in like Crocotopia, Marleybone, that sort of thing, before you have Tempest. This would do a ton of damage and is really good for that. So the issue with those was that you had to be level 50 or lower. Like they were badge locked. So if you had the badge for completing Celestia, I think it's Astrologist or something, you could not farm any more spellements from the bosses. You had to either... I'm not even sure if cantrip chests were out yet. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. But if you didn't have a level 50 character or lower, you either made a new one, or if you had 7 slots already and couldn't buy any more elixirs, you had to use retriever talent pets like this one. And what you would do is you would slave away, and it would take you forever, but eventually you would get the spellements. Except, I mean, obviously it took a very long time to do so, and I mean that's just the whole thing. So I just that was a poor decision on KI's part. But the silver lining, and looking back, this was a silver lining, is the fact that these spellements would drop a lot at a time. Malistaire himself would drop like 50 of every, or not of every spellement, but 50 spellements spread out across all of the Arc 1 spells. And then there were also bosses like Zarathax, which would drop 14 spellements spread across all of the spells. And then there was also Boris Blackrock and Vasek Ashweaver. Those would do elemental and spiritual respectively, 14 on those as well. So you could kind of farm them how you wanted to, and sort of, I guess, specifically get some of them, that sort of deal. And that was honestly good. They did at least drop at a good rate. Then the spring update in 2024 happened. Now, let's take a look at what happened then. In spring of 2024, the ever-popular 7-pip AoE cards got their spellement paths. And so, what happened here was, it happened again with the level gating and the badge locking and all that. If you had beaten Polaris on a character, you would not be able to farm the bosses for, like Chrysalis bosses, for example, for these spellements. And it was just sort of chalked at that point. That is actually one of the prime reasons why I did Exalted PvP on my Balance Wizard. Because I wanted to keep him at level 100 and not finish Polaris, so that way I could actually like farm bosses like Archmagus Lorcan was discovered to be probably the best boss to farm for Arc 2 spellements, and you know, the best way to get these. So I was holding out for that, but then the update dropped. And this is going to be very rambly. I'm already at 13 minutes just about. But then the update dropped. And as it turned out, the bosses would only drop 7 spellements spread across all of the ones that you could get, which was much slower. That was half the rate. And there was no Malistaire that would drop like 50. Although, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe Morganth does. But I'm not so sure on that. But the farming bosses method that everybody settled for, I won't say loved, because nobody liked having to farm on a level 50 and get 2 accounts to do that and to streamline it, but it at least was efficient if you did it that way. But for Arc 2, that was not the case, because 1, all of the bosses had like double, triple, quadruple the health, depending on what world you were looking at to farm. So that was the whole thing. And after that, it's like they didn't even drop them at a good rate. So over a year ago, I did 5 2.5 hour long streams where I just hit cantrip chests in Celestia with a couple people from my chat. This is how I met Firestarter, by the way. Those 5 awful streams were how I got these spells to tier 5. And to my knowledge, he doesn't even have the tier 5 yet, because I think he started coming around it, or maybe he couldn't come to one of the streams. And it's like, because farming the cantrip chest was so mind-numbing that like nobody would want to do it. And the only reason I was able to get these was because I had gained some following by that point in April of 24, and I was able to get people from my chat to come help me mindlessly spam cantrip chests for 2.5 hours for 5 days. And that that was how I got it. But the average Joe will not be able to get this to tier 5 because, you know, cantrip chests being the best way to farm was awful. Like, who in their right mind would set it up that way? Of course, you know, KI is often not in their right mind, which is how we got this. But it doesn't make sense to me because this is so hard to farm compared to Arc 1. It's like Arc 1, I have all of my Arc 1 spells just fully maxed. And, I mean, I've got things like Stormzilla. I have tier 2 Stormzilla on multiple other characters. Like, tier 2 Triton is the same way for like, heal counters and damage over time counters. And, you know, Arc 1, it wasn't that bad. But then Arc 2, this. What are we doing? So it's like, I only have tier 2 for most of the Arc 2 spells. Or I guess I have like tier 3 for Leviathan, but the point being, I am nowhere near tier 5 for that. And that is like, that's my problem. It's like Storm Owl right here. This is a very important spell for Storms to have. And the new raid, it's like, you want to have this maxed, so that way you're not like hitting low end and having the boss tank, that sort of thing. So, I mean, I'm well on my way, but I'm not there yet, and that's why I'm still at tier 4. So, bottom line, Arc 2 spellment farming, atrocious. They need to really either up the drops on the bosses, so that way they're not dropping 7 spellements per run anymore. And then they need to, like, just, I don't know, make, like, I don't even know what I'm talking about. It's like make cantrip chests more accessible. I don't know how they would do that, because you basically, it's all about just having 2 other people with you. But maybe buffing elemental retriever talents. So that leads me into Arc 3, which, you know, consists of things like, okay, not Glowbug Squall, but things like, you know, Rusalka's Wrath, Iron Sultan, wherever that is, Iron Sultan, right? And these dropped earlier this year, spring of 2025, these dropped. And I don't know. I didn't ever see anything about any Arc 3 boss that dropped these at a good rate. Probably because people learned their lesson after the Arc 2 development update. So the best way to get these, as the community found out, was to fall back on these retriever pets. So basically, I still have a mark at Port Arrow because this is where I've been doing it this whole time. So it's like I can go to Port Arrow, I can equip this pet, and like for Fire, Ice, and Storm spellements, and balance as well, but just at a lower rate. I can come through here, I can have my pet's happiness all the way up, press elemental retriever, hit this wooden chest in a small area, I guess, and there we go. I got, let's see, I got 1 Storm Owl, 1 Sabertooth, 1 Sun Serpent, 1 Scion of Storm, 1 Scion of Fire. Scions are still bugged, by the way. 2 Scion of Fires, actually, 1 Sandworm, and 1 Fire King Artorias. Look at how slow that is. That was like, what, 7, 8 spellment drops, and just like barely anything to show for it. It's like I didn't even get any Storm Owl spellments from that, right? Or maybe no, I got one. So 122 out of 305. Let's say, for example, that I, you know, hit all of these chests another, what is this, almost 200 times. I would need to hit this chest 200 more times in order to get this to max tier. Bro, I mean, it's like this. In my opinion, this is now the slowest way to farm spellements, because, I mean, cantrip chests are roughly the same rate, but, I mean, it's just atrocious. And, like I said, you know, there's no boss that really drops these at that good of a rate. So, you know, Arc 3 spellements, kind of the same issue as Arc 2. They're very hard to get, but also very important to Leviathan. I guess, you know, you would use TC Leviathan because it's just easier to get that way. But for things like Storm Owl, you know, if you're a Storm trying to do PvP, you want this max tiered because it's doing 1600 damage on the high end. It's like, that's doing a ton of damage. So it's like, why wouldn't you want that? So it's like, but getting it is so hard. And that's kind of the big issue here. It's like Storm Owl, just you need this, but it's very hard to get. And just like farming all the spellements, you know, Rusalka's Wrath. Some of these Arc 3 spellements, not necessarily Rusalka and Iron Sultan, but for some of the other schools like Wings of Fate, I have not done life PvP yet because I'm still trying to get Wings of Fate spellements, and I'm not even at 75 on that yet. So that's mighty swell. Do I actually have any on my storm right now? I don't. Isn't that awesome? Maybe I should have used this to show off, but yeah, it's like I'm just trying my absolute hardest to get that up for everybody to watch life PvP, that sort of thing. It's just I don't have the spells. I don't have Wings of Fate yet. And okay, 147 seconds left on the cooldown. That's awesome. But yeah, it's like I can't do life PvP without that card because the strat that I'm going for needs it. And so if I don't have that, I can't do life PvP. So, or at least not with that strat. So I don't know. Maybe I won't even do that strat anymore. We'll really just have to see because I still want to do life PvP. But it's like the fact of the matter is, some of these cards, these Arc 3 spellements that people really need, just aren't like easy to farm. They take forever. So that's another thing. It's like I really wish that they would buff the spellement drops from things like retriever talents, things like boss drops, you know. It's like, I think there was somebody in my chat yesterday on my Twitch stream talking about like, yo, you know, what is the best way to get like Scion of Balance spellements or something like that, some sort of spellement. And people were like, oh, just farm the rat rematch. The rat rematch. The fact that that's even an acceptable answer is absurd. And it's like, the rat rematch does drop some spellements, but it's not nearly enough. Not nearly at as good of a rate. So it's like, yeah, it's like, what's the point? It's like, I think I said, you know, like, just farm cantrip chests here in Port Arrow. And it's like, that's probably the best way without, or farm retriever talent, rather. Not cantrip chests, but it's, dude, I don't even know what to say about it. It's absurd. Oh my. And then Arc 4. Let's talk briefly about Arc 4 because it's got the same problems as Arc 3. The Arc 4 spellements, this, honestly, in my opinion, has the worst farming experience out of any of them because the problem with it is that there really isn't a boss in any Arc 4 world that drops the Arc 4 spellements at a good rate. The best rates that I've seen have ironically been from the Lemuria raid. I've actually gotten 11 Twaret spellements from my last run through of it, which was straight up unsuccessful, by the way. Didn't even get a single win, but I still got 11 Twaret spellements, which is not a bad rate at all. But that shouldn't be the best way to get them. And the other best way is to farm Crash the Bandicoot excessively. There are people who have done like 4,000 runs of Crash to upgrade their like Wallaru and Nova spells, and it's like they're not. It's like that's what it takes to max them. And here I am with my tier 3 Bunyip's Rage, about to get it to tier 4, probably after my next raid run. But it's like, okay, so one thing that I should mention is that when the Nova spells first came out, they only went up to tier 3, and then Wallaru came out and they went up to tier 4, and then Selenopolis came out and they went up to tier 5. Similarly, the Wallaru spells came out up to tier 3, Selenopolis came out, tier 4, and then when Darkmoor comes out this fall, they're going to be going to tier 5. So, that's going to be the last time these will gain new tiers, to the best of my knowledge. I don't know if they're ever going to do at tier 6 or higher, I hope not, but the same is going to happen for spells like Hecate. It's like this is going to get another upgrade, and you'll need 190 spellements to get there, and I just don't have that, so... Oh my. Yeah, I mean, there's just no good way to farm that, and it's looking like Arc 5 is going to be similar with the way that they did not change the Arc 4 formula with Hecate. So, I don't know, man. It's just, they matter so much in the grand scheme of things, but they're so hard and so grindy to get, and a lot of people just don't even opt to really upgrade that much. It's like, my Queen Calypso is only tier 3 because this is as far as I could get it with one 90-minute, by the way, Lady Stonegaze portal. That's how high I could get this. And I'm not sure if I'm ever going to go for tier 5 on Queen Calypso. I think I do want to go for tier 5 eventually on Berry Surprise just because I'm close, but ultimately, man, I mean, this is a little absurd. It's like my Catalan, this is another essential spell for Storm. I need to farm Lambent Fire for that, and get it to its tier 5 form for 700 damage on the Catalan. Catalan is a very, very important spell for Storm to have, you know. And so, dude, there's just not really much to say about it. It's like every single spellement just has a problem with it in terms of how to get it. It's like I haven't even touched on these spells yet. These are the Beast Moon spells, like Thunderman, Thermic Golem, you know. It's like those cards are just straight aggressive to try and get. Bro, high Firestarter. But yeah, it's just, it's so, words just don't describe how much I hate the spellment grind in Wiz, and just how stupid it's been made, and it just takes so long. My brain cells are dying too, man, don't even worry about it. But it's like, there's so many different spellements and so many different acquisitions for separate spellements, but none of them are consistently good, with the exception of farming Arc 1 bosses on a level 50, or with the Scales of Knowledge that they thankfully added last spring. So, man, I don't even know what to say. It's like some of these spells also have just gold key fights that are atrocious to do, and especially with how gold keys, you know, they don't drop anymore. They're much harder to get these days. But the gold key portals do help with that. I'm glad that they added that last summer. But overall, I mean, I've been ranting for nearly 30 minutes about spellements because that is just how bad they are to obtain. And it's my hope that eventually King's can do something about how hard it is to get these spellements. And I mean, I think it's wishful thinking personally. I don't I really don't have the highest of expectations, but who knows, maybe someday they'll make these easier to get. That is my biggest hope, but with how bad that they've gotten over the past few years, I'm just not sure. At least they're not insanely pay to win anymore, although the packs that do come out relatively quickly, I say quickly, even though the Dasein Saga Spellment pack still isn't out, but it's like those packs are probably the best way to get the spellments. I'm gonna say it. These, let me find them. They're booster packs. Let me see. Horde booster packs. Okay, so you look down here. Where's it at? Like okay, maybe not this one, but the Morgantha Saga Spellment pack. It's like this is the best way to get Arc 2 Spellments. And then you look at the Event Spellment pack. This is the best way to get things like Thunderman Spellments. Things like Thieving Dragon Spellments if you're an Ice. Things like, what else is there? Things like, I don't know, Dream Golem Spellements if you're a Death, I don't know. But it's like, that's the best way to get these Spellements, is through packs. So, bruh. It's like the free-to-play way to get them is just ass in all forms. But, dude, I don't really know if I've got much else to say on the matter. I think it's a little absurd, but maybe they'll improve this going forward. Who knows? I'm not holding my breath though. So for now, thank y'all for watching. I've been Ice Gold. Thank you for watching this 29-minute rant. My Discord is down in the description if you want to chat with me some more, and I will see y'all later.